Grimora.
The forest didn't feel like a place people visited. It felt like a place that tolerated you for as long as it wanted, and then reminded you quietly, coldly, that you were nobody there. I learned that the first week I moved to Northwood Ridge, a small mountain town in northern Utah, surrounded by miles and miles of untouched pine wilderness. People came for the air, the lakes, the fishing, the quiet. I didn't come for any of that. I came because I needed to disappear. After my father died, after the fights with my sister, after the nights where sleep felt impossible and mornings felt heavier than the ones before, I needed somewhere to start fresh. So I took the seasonal ranger job the Park Service offered. A small cabin came with it. Remote, old, no neighbors for miles. It was exactly what I thought I wanted. The forest had other ideas. My first night was uneventful. Crickets, wind, distant owls. Nothing unusual. But the second night, something shifted. The air changed. The woods quieted. It was the kind of silence that didn't feel natural, the kind that pressed on your ears like pressure underwater. I remember standing outside the cabin, mug in hand, looking into the tree line. The pines stood impossibly tall, their silhouettes swaying just slightly in the dark. But the movement felt wrong, like they were breathing instead of blowing with the wind. Then I saw the shape. At first, I thought it was a tree stump, short, still, blended with the shadows. But when my eyes adjusted, I realized it wasn't a stump at all. It was a figure, standing perfectly still between two pines. A woman, or something shaped like a woman. Long dark hair, bare arms, skin too pale for night. I blinked, and she was gone, just vanished into the dark, as if she sank into it. I tried to brush it off. Exhaustion, loneliness, forest shadows. But I didn't sleep well that night. I kept waking to the same feeling, that someone stood just outside the cabin, listening to me breathe. By morning, everything looked normal again. Birds chirped, the sun warmed the wood. I almost convinced myself it was nothing, but when I stepped outside, something waited on the porch. Pine needles, not sprinkled randomly, placed deliberately. A small pile, in a perfect circle. I crouched down and touched them. They were cold, damp, recently gathered from deeper in the woods. I brushed them aside, unsettled. Around noon, I hiked the perimeter trail for my routine check. The trail wrapped in a loop around the cabin, about 2 miles long. Halfway through, I slowed. The trees leaned inward, tighter than before. Branches stretched like clawed fingers above my head. The air smelled stronger. Moss, earth, something older. That was when I noticed the carvings. Fresh marks scraped into the bark of 3 different pines, similar shape each time. A circle, enclosing an eye, not a pretty symbol, roughly gouged, almost desperate, as if carved by someone trembling or in a hurry. I touched one of the marks. The wood was still soft. I felt watched. That night, I locked every window, drew every curtain, made tea and tried to read. Around 11:40 p.m., the forest went silent again. Not gradually, instantly. A switch flipped. Everything stilled. My chest tightened. Then came the first sound. Not footsteps, not branches. Breathing. Slow, steady breathing, coming from the other side of the wall behind me. Soft, but unmistakable, exhaling in long, drawn-out sighs, like someone pressing their face against the cabin, listening through the wood. I froze. The breathing moved, sliding along the wall, following the living room perimeter. I didn't dare look. I stared ahead, heart pounding. It stopped near the window behind me. Very slowly, very softly, something tapped the glass. Once, twice, 3 slow taps. My breath caught in my throat. The taps weren't demanding. They were curious. I turned slightly, just enough to see the window edge. A shadow stood there, tall, thin, hair hanging in wet strands, hand lifted against the glass. The outline of a woman, but wrong, too long at the limbs, neck tilted at an unnatural angle, as if it couldn't hold its own weight. I blinked, barely a second, and she was gone. The silence returned, heavier than before. I didn't sleep that night.
In the morning, I stepped outside cautiously. The forest looked deceptively calm again, but something new waited for me on the porch. Another circle, this time made of pine cones, and in the center of the circle, a single lock of long black hair. I stepped back, heartbeat rushing in my ears. Someone had been here, someone who didn't leave footprints, someone who didn't disturb the dusting of loose earth around the porch, as if they floated. I grabbed my Ranger radio. Static. No signal, no connection, nothing but a low hum that almost sounded like whispering. I needed answers. The only other ranger stationed remotely was an older guy named Jason, assigned to a fire lookout 5 miles north. The trail connecting us was rugged, but I didn't care. I needed to talk to someone who knew the forest well. I grabbed my pack and left immediately. The deeper I went, the stranger the woods became. The air felt thicker, heavier, the trees closer. At one point, I swore I heard my name, soft, distant, carried by no wind. By the 3rd mile, I saw movement, a figure standing behind a pine trunk, body half hidden, long dark hair, bare feet, skin the color of moonlight. This time, she didn't vanish. She stepped out from behind the tree. My breath stopped. Her eyes weren't human. They were hollow indentations, dark as rot. No reflection, no white, just endless pits. Her jaw hung slightly open, as if the muscles were too tired to hold it closed. Her limbs dangled loosely, as though they were held up by something external rather than her own body. She didn't walk toward me. She drifted, slow, silent, letting her hair fall in wet ropes across her face. My instinct screamed to run. I did. Branches ripped at my jacket as I tore through the forest path. I didn't look back. I kept going until the lookout tower finally came into view through the pines. Jason was outside, cigarette in his mouth, looking at me like I was a wild animal that had sprinted straight out of hell. "Jesus," he muttered. "You look like you saw." Before he could finish, I grabbed his arm. "There's something in those woods." His face changed instantly. He didn't look surprised. He looked afraid. Slowly, he crushed the cigarette under his boot. "You weren't supposed to see her," he whispered. I swallowed hard. "You know what I saw?" His voice lowered, barely audible. "We all see her, eventually." He looked out toward the trees. "She watches anyone who lives alone in these woods." He turned back to me, eyes grim. "But if she's already standing this close to you, then she's not just watching, she's choosing." My blood ran cold. Jason swallowed. "And once she chooses someone, She won't stop until they follow her into the pines.
Jason didn't say anything for a long time. He just stared into the tree line as if expecting her to appear again. The way his jaw clenched, the way his breathing changed, it told me everything. This wasn't new to him. It wasn't surprising. It was something he hoped he'd never have to talk about. "What does she want?" I asked, voice barely holding steady. Jason kept his eyes on the forest. "She doesn't want anything," he said. "Not at first. She just watches." He finally looked at me. "But once she chooses you, she wants you with her, in the trees, forever." My throat tightened. "Who is she?" Jason shook his head. "She wasn't always what you saw. Years ago, before my time here, she was just a missing hiker, a woman named Alina Rowe. People searched for weeks. Rangers, locals, dogs. They found her pack, her phone, her jacket." He paused. "Never found her. What happened to her?" Jason exhaled slowly. "They say she got lost off trail, fell, broke something, died out there. But there was something strange about the search. People kept saying they felt watched, that they saw someone standing behind trees, but every time they looked again, no one was there." I felt chills crawling over my arms. Jason continued softly. "Some of the search party swore they heard a woman crying or calling for help, but no voice ever led anywhere." "What about her body?" I asked. "They say the forest took her," Jason answered, "and it's been using her ever since." My skin prickled. "Using her?" Jason nodded. "She's not whole, not anymore. She moves like something else is pulling her strings, like something older than she is, something that's been burying people in this forest longer than there's been a town here." I stared at him. "Why didn't anyone warn me?" Jason looked away, shame flickering across his face. "Because if we told every new ranger, they wouldn't stay, and the forest needs eyes on it. Tours, data, reports. Nobody wants the truth out." He rubbed his forehead. "But if she came to you this fast, something's changed." "What do I do?" Jason swallowed, his voice lowering to almost a whisper. "You don't acknowledge her. You don't go outside at night. And you don't follow her. Ever." A gust of wind rustled the treetops. Jason's head snapped toward it instantly, as if expecting her to step out. For the first time, I realized the fear was etched into him. He had lived with this for years. "I'll walk you back," he said finally. "You shouldn't go alone." The walk back was tense. The woods felt thicker, darker, like they knew we were talking about them. Every rustle made Jason flinch. He kept scanning the trees, hand never far from the flare gun at his hip. Halfway through the trail, Jason stopped abruptly and raised his hand. "Don't move." I froze. The silence hit again, the unnatural, suffocating quiet I'd felt the night before. Every insect, every bird, every sound died at once. The air felt dense, pressing against my ears. Jason's eyes darted around. "She's close." My pulse thundered. "What do we—" Before I could finish, something moved ahead. A figure stepped between the trees 50 feet away. Alina. She stood half hidden behind a pine trunk, only one shoulder and half her face visible. Her hair hung in wet ropes. Her skin looked gray in the dim light, stretched tight as if shrunk by cold. Her cheekbone protruded sharply. Her jaw hung slightly open. "Don't look at her," Jason whispered. But I'd already had. I couldn't help it. My gaze locked onto hers. Her eyes weren't eyes. They were just dark hollows, empty sockets, yet somehow full of intention, as if something watched me from inside the darkness behind them. She tilted her head in a slow, unnatural motion. Then she stepped fully into view. I heard Jason curse under his breath. "She's choosing." Alina took one dragging step toward us, then another, each movement stiff, puppet-like. Her arms hung limp at her sides, fingers partially curled. Her neck craned unnaturally far to one side.
like something had snapped long ago. Jason grabbed my wrist. "Run, now."
We sprinted through the forest as fast as the uneven trail allowed. Branches whipped my face. Roots caught my boots. My lungs burned. Behind us, I heard nothing. No footsteps, no breathing, no voice. But the silence followed. It stalked us like a shadow. When we reached the cabin clearing, Jason stopped abruptly, grabbing my shoulder. "Get inside," he said. "Don't open the door tonight. Don't look out the windows." "Will you stay with me?" Jason shook his head. "She's less likely to approach the tower. It's higher up, less connected to the ground. But she's chosen you, not me." I felt nauseous. "What does that mean?" Jason looked at me with a grimness I'll never forget. "It means she'll come back, closer, every night, until you follow." Before I could respond, something snapped deep in the woods. It sounded like a branch cracking under heavy weight. Jason shoved me toward the cabin. "Inside, now." I rushed in and locked the door. Jason backed away slowly, eyes scanning the tree line, then turned and jogged down the trail toward his tower. I stood in the living room, chest heaving, listening to the quiet outside. Minutes passed, then an hour. The forest remained silent. Around midnight, I heard the first sound, soft footsteps circling the cabin, slow, measured, dragging slightly, like someone pulled one leg behind them. They moved from the back wall to the bedroom, then along the kitchen, then to the window near the front door. Then the breathing started. Long, shaky exhales pressed against the glass. I backed away, shaking. A faint tapping followed. 3 slow taps. Then a whisper, soft and breathless, barely audible through the window. "Come to the trees." My whole body went cold. Her shadow stretched across the curtain. I felt a pressure in my chest, a pull, like something tugged me toward the door. Another whisper, "You're almost here." I squeezed my eyes shut, refusing to move. The tapping stopped. The breathing faded. The silence returned. I waited hours before I dared to check. Just before dawn, I peeked through a slit in the curtain. My breath froze. Pine needles covered the entire porch, arranged in a perfect circle, and in the center, a handprint. Long, gray, wet, pressed into the wood like a stain that wasn't there yesterday. She had touched the house. Tonight, she would come closer.
By the time daylight finally settled over the pines, the handprint on the porch looked darker, more defined, as if whatever touched the wood sunk into it, staining it from the inside. I stood in the doorway staring at it, unable to shake the feeling that the hand was still there, cold, reaching, waiting. I didn't touch it. I didn't go near it. I just stepped around it and walked into the clearing, hoping the sun would make everything feel less impossible. It didn't. The forest seemed somehow taller, crowding closer to the cabin than the day before. The pines leaned inward, as if listening. If a forest could breathe, I swear I would have felt it brushing the back of my neck. Jason's words kept replaying in my head. "She's choosing you." What happens when she chooses someone? I had asked him. "She brings them deeper," he had answered.
where she disappeared. I didn't want to disappear. I made coffee, sat at the table, and stared at the tree line. I kept expecting to see her, standing just inside the shadows, hollow eyes fixed on my door. But the forest was still, watching, but still. I needed to talk to Jason again. I grabbed my pack and decided to hike to the tower. The moment I stepped into the woods, the temperature noticeably dropped. Not freezing, just colder than morning should be. A steady ache settled in my bones as I walked, my breath visible even though the air shouldn't have been that cold. About half a mile in, I saw something on the ground. Pine needles. Not scattered, placed. A thin trail leading off the main path, arranged in careful little bundles every few steps, almost like breadcrumbs. They curved away from the trail, deeper into the forest, toward darker, denser trees. I didn't follow it. I didn't even want to look at it for more than a second. I kept my eyes forward and pushed through the brush until Jason's tower finally came into view at the top of a hill. I called up to him. "Jason, you there?" No response. I climbed the first ladder up to the platform. The tower creaked under my weight. The place smelled like cold metal, pine, and stale cigarettes. "Jason?" Still no answer. I reached the top and swung myself onto the enclosed observation deck. The door was open. That wasn't normal. He always kept it closed for warmth. Inside, the space looked used but empty. Jacket on the chair. Radio still on the desk. Coffee cup half full. Everything exactly as it should be, except Jason wasn't there. A chill spread through my chest. "Jason?" I called again, softer this time, as if afraid to be heard. Silence. I tried the radio. Static. No voice. No signal. The same low hum that almost sounded like breath. I turned to leave, frustration boiling into anxiety, then froze. Something was carved in the wooden floor near the ladder. A circle. Inside it, an eye. The same marking I'd seen on the trees. But this one was fresh. Fresh enough that wood dust still clung to the edges. The lines cut deep and uneven, like someone had carved it while shaking. My breathing turned sharp and shallow. Why would Jason carve this? Unless footsteps echoed faintly below the tower. Slow, dragging. They circled the base of the structure, the same way she circled my cabin last night. My heart slammed into my ribs. No, no, no.
The footsteps stopped directly beneath the ladder. I tried not to move, tried not to breathe. The wood floor vibrated softly, as if something pressed a hand against one of the tower legs. Then I heard it, a single exhale, long, shuddering, wet, right beneath me. I backed away from the trapdoor, slowly, carefully. My hands shook violently, despite trying to keep them steady. My mind screamed to run, but running meant climbing down directly toward her. I didn't know if she could climb. I didn't know if she even needed to, but I wasn't going down there. Not until she left. Minutes stretched. I stared at the floorboards, watching for any shift, any shadow. The breathing came again, softer this time, as if she were trying to listen through the wood. Then the whisper reached me. "You're close." I nearly collapsed. Her voice seeped upward like cold rising from winter soil. "You're almost here." The scrape of fingers against the metal ladder raked the air. She was climbing. I backed into the corner of the observation deck, clawing for something to defend myself with. The radio, the chair, anything. My hand closed around the flare gun Jason kept near the desk. I grabbed it and held it tight, keeping it aimed at the trapdoor. The ladder creaked. Once, then again, then again. She was halfway up. Her fingers appeared first, long, pale, dripping, curling over the edge of the floorboards. Not gripping, hanging like the joints were loose. Then her hair rose into view, a dark tangle, wet and heavy. Then a voice echoed from outside. "Hey, Jason!" He emerged from the tree line at a sprint, face twisted with panic. "Get out of the tower!" Her hand snapped back instantly, disappearing into the shadows. The breathing stopped. The ladder stilled. Jason raced up the steps, climbing faster than I thought possible. "Move!" he shouted. "Now!" I scrambled across the deck, barely able to think. My legs wobbled. My lungs refused to work. Together, we rushed down the tower, nearly slipping twice before jumping the last 6 rungs to the ground. Jason grabbed my arm. "Run!" We didn't stop running until the clearing opened and the cabin came back into view. Jason finally let go, leaning against a tree, gasping. "She's not supposed to come up there," he said between breaths. "The tower has always been safe." I collapsed onto the porch steps. "What does that mean?" I asked. Jason swallowed hard. "It means she's getting stronger." I stared at the forest, which suddenly seemed too quiet, too dark for midday. Jason crouched beside me. "She's not just choosing you," he whispered. "She's trying to bring you deeper, into the same place she vanished." His voice wavered. "And if she's strong enough to climb the tower, then tonight won't be like the others." A cold wind swept between the pines, bending them just slightly, as if something moved between them. Jason's voice dropped even lower. "You won't survive the next night alone."
Jason didn't want to go back to the tower after what happened. I didn't blame him. The idea that she had climbed that ladder, had touched the floor inches below me, kept replaying in my head like a looping nightmare. We sat on the porch for a long time, catching our breath, scanning the tree line for any sign of movement. The handprint I had found earlier still stained the wood at our feet, darker now in the daylight, almost pulsing with moisture. Jason finally spoke. "She only leaves marks when she's starting to cross over." "Cross over?" I asked. He nodded. "She exists in the trees, in a place between here and wherever she was lost. But when she chooses someone, she gets closer to our side." He rubbed his face with both hands. "That handprint, that means she's almost here." My skin crawled. "What do I do?" Jason sighed. "You need to leave, tonight, before it's too late." "I tried hiking out yesterday," I said. "The forest wasn't letting me." Jason looked sharply at me. "What do you mean?" I told him about the trail of pine needles arranged off the path, the sudden cold, the forest shifting, the feeling of being pushed back toward the clearing. His expression drained of color. "She's guiding you." "Guiding me? Where?" He hesitated. "Where she died." A chill spread through me. Jason stood, pacing in short circles. "Listen to me. Tonight is the 3rd night since you saw her the first time. That's when she gets bold. That's when she tries to draw you in deeper." "Why me?" I asked. Jason met my eyes. "You're alone. You're grieving. You remind her of someone she lost. Her husband." Jason nodded. "The forest uses what you feel, what you carry. It shapes the way she hunts." "Hunts," I echoed, the word vibrating inside my skull. "She doesn't mean to," Jason added quickly. "She's a victim too. But whatever has her, whatever holds her in these woods, it pushes her to bring others in."
I sank down onto the porch step, my legs suddenly weak. Jason exhaled shakily. "We need help. The nearest ranger station is a 2-hour drive, and I don't have a car. Your truck is here. We can take it." I shook my head. The forest didn't let me leave last time. The trail bent. "The road is different," he said firmly. "It's maintained. It's open. It's not part of the forest the same way." I wanted to believe him. We went inside to gather essentials: water, keys, radios, anything we might need. Jason kept glancing out the windows like he expected her to appear at any moment. When everything was ready, we stepped outside. The forest was silent. Not a breeze, not a bird, nothing. Jason froze. "She's awake." We hurried toward the truck. Jason threw the pack into the back seat and motioned for me to start the engine. I climbed in, turned the key. The truck sputtered, then died. I tried again. Nothing but dry coughing. Jason cursed under his breath. "She's draining things." "What do you mean?" "Electrics, engines, light. Anything that keeps you safe." He grabbed my arm. "We need to leave now. On foot." I hesitated. The idea of running through the woods when she was close enough to drain a truck made my chest tighten. Jason squeezed my shoulder. "If we stay here, she will come inside." We ran. The trail that led out of the forest started behind the cabin, a clear dirt path winding downhill toward the access road. It was steep but direct. If we could make it 1.5 miles, we'd reach service lines and other cabins. We moved fast, stumbling over roots and rocks. The forest darkened unnaturally fast, clouds swallowing the sun, though the forecast had been clear all day.
5 minutes in, I felt it. The cold. Not normal cold, a deep, biting cold that seemed to seep upward from the soil. My skin prickled, my breath fogged. Jason slowed, looking around in panic. "She's close." The silence thickened. Then, faintly, behind us, a whisper. "Come back." Jason grabbed my wrist. "Don't turn around." I didn't, but the whisper came again, closer. "Come back." Jason tightened his grip. "Run." We did. The trail twisted sharply to the right, but the forest ahead looked wrong. Shadows shifting, trees bending inward, like the woods themselves tried to block our escape. Then Jason stopped abruptly, chest heaving. "Look!" I followed his gaze. Pine needles covered the trail. A perfect circle. In the center, a footprint. Long, bare, wet, fresh. Jason's voice cracked. "She's ahead of us." "How?" I whispered. "She moves between places," he said, "between where she is and where she wants to be." Before I could speak, something rustled behind us. Slow, dragging. Jason stepped in front of me, raising the flare gun. His voice dropped to a trembling whisper. "Don't look at her. Don't answer her. Don't move unless I tell you." The forest behind us went still. Then a soft footstep. Then another. She was approaching. I stared straight ahead, every muscle shaking. I felt her presence move closer, felt the cold roll through me like a wave. A faint sound rose behind me, a quiet creaking, like bones shifting. She exhaled. Her breath slid down my spine. Jason whispered, "Don't react." I couldn't breathe. Another step. I shut my eyes tightly. Then I felt her fingertips brush my shoulder, lightly, cold enough to numb the skin instantly. Jason fired. The flare burst into the air, a sudden streak of blistering red that lit up the trees like a silent explosion. There was no scream,
but the cold vanished instantly. Jason grabbed my arm. "Move! Move now!" We ran blindly, branches slapping us, ground shaking beneath us, with distant reverberations, like something massive shifting deep underground. When we finally reached a broad clearing, Jason dropped to his knees, gasping. "She touched you," he said. "She never touched anyone this early." I swallowed hard. "What does that mean?" Jason lifted his head. His voice was barely a whisper. "It means she's not trying to guide you anymore." He looked at the forest with a horror I'd never seen in another man's eyes. "She's trying to claim you."
Jason stayed on his knees for a long moment, breath shallow, eyes fixed on my shoulder, as if he expected her fingerprints to still be there. The touch had been brief, almost gentle, but the cold left behind was deep, spreading slowly through my arm like frost crawling beneath the skin. I rubbed the spot instinctively. It was numb, completely numb. Jason rose shakily to his feet. "We can't stay in the open. She moves faster when there's no trees to hold her back." "What does that mean?" I asked. Jason swallowed hard. "She's tied to the pines, but the thing controlling her isn't. Out here it moves differently." A shiver ran down my spine. We crossed the clearing quickly, moving toward a section of forest that sloped downward toward the main service road. The air felt thick, harder to breathe. Each step felt heavier, like the ground wanted to pull us down. Birds didn't chirp, branches didn't creak, just silence. Jason stopped suddenly. His entire body stiffened. "What is it?" I whispered. "The trees." His voice tightened. "They weren't like this before." I looked around. The pines grew denser the deeper we went, so dense that sunlight barely reached the ground. Their trunks leaned inward, not randomly, but as if curved toward us. The branches hung lower than natural, brushing our shoulders like stiff hands. The trail narrowed, then vanished completely. Just forest, thick and endless. Jason crouched and examined the ground. His fingers shook. The trail can't just disappear. But it had. The forest had closed behind us, swallowing the path, rearranging itself like a shifting maze. I heard a faint sound, soft, almost delicate, pine needles falling, except they weren't falling, they were drifting, moving sideways through the air, gathering, building a line on the forest floor, a trail leading deeper into the pines. Jason stood slowly, dread settling on his face. "Don't follow it." My heart hammered. "It's the only clear path. That's exactly why she made it," he said. "She's guiding you." "She wants me to follow her," I whispered. Jason nodded. "She's leading you to the place she disappeared, to the place she died." I felt cold sink deeper into my shoulder. The forest watched us. Jason turned sharply. "We go the other way, now." We pushed through the underbrush, branches tearing my jacket, needles scraping my arms. Every few steps, I looked back. The trail of pine needles followed us, forming quietly, smoothly, as if an invisible hand traced it onto the ground. Then a sound echoed through the trees, a soft, trembling breath, not ahead, behind. I froze. Jason grabbed my wrist. "Don't you dare turn around." Another breath, closer, warmer, wet. A whisper pressed into my ear. "You're almost here." I felt her presence behind me,
could feel her leaning in inches away. The air dragged into my lungs like ice water. I couldn't move, couldn't think. Her fingers brushed my neck, soft, curious, pulling me to look. Jason shoved me hard, breaking the moment. I stumbled forward. "Run!" he shouted. We crashed through the forest, stumbling over roots, branches whipping our legs. My shoulder throbbed with cold, spreading to my chest. My lungs burned. The trees seemed to bend inward, blocking our path in every direction. I heard her behind us, not footsteps, not breathing, movement, fast, sliding, like something gliding over the forest floor. We reached a slope, steep, covered in pine needles. Jason grabbed my arm. "Down!"
We slid, tumbling, barely able to control our descent. Gravel and needles scraped my palms. My head hit a rock, white flash. Jason grabbed me, pulling me upright as soon as we stopped sliding. Ahead of us, at the bottom of the slope, the forest opened into a clearing, a wide circle, bare earth, no pines growing inside it. Jason's face drained of color. "Oh God, what is it?" I asked. His voice cracked. "This is where they found her things." I stared at him. "This is where they think she died." The clearing was oddly perfect, almost unnaturally so. Dirt packed tight, no debris, no tracks, no wildlife, as if the forest refused to grow here, as if something older already claimed the ground. At the center lay a blackened patch of soil, burned, charred, as though lightning struck it repeatedly, or as though someone tried to burn something that couldn't burn. Jason grabbed my arm. "We need to go around it. Don't step inside." But something strange happened. The numbness in my shoulder pulsed. Once, then again, harder, and the cold dragged me forward. My foot stepped toward the clearing without my permission. Jason pulled me back. Hey, look at me. She's pulling you." I tried to focus, but the cold was inside me now, crawling down my arm, spreading into my ribs. My vision blurred at the edges. The forest went silent. Then she appeared, not standing, not walking, rising, slowly. From the center of the clearing, her hair hung like soaked moss. Her limbs dangled loosely. Her eyes, those hollow sockets, locked onto mine. She leaned forward unnaturally far, as if gravity didn't apply to her. Jason raised the flare gun again. "Back off." Her jaw unhinged slightly, slowly, wetly. Then she spoke. Her voice was broken, like someone speaking underwater, like lungs that hadn't held air in years. "You've come back." My heart nearly stopped. She drifted closer. Jason fired. The flare shot through her as if she were mist, exploding behind her in a burst of red light. She didn't flinch, didn't react. She kept coming. "Jason," I gasped. He stepped between us, voice trembling. "You can't have him." She cocked her head slowly. Then something moved behind her. Shadows, forming, thickening. Something tall, something older, something that used her like a puppet. Jason whispered, "Run, run now." But I couldn't move. My legs refused. The cold had spread to my spine. She raised her hand toward me. Her fingers opened, inviting. Jason screamed, "Don't look at her." But I did, and the world collapsed. For a split second, I wasn't in the forest.
I was somewhere dark, wet, buried beneath layers of soil and roots. Her voice rasped inside my skull. "I found you." Jason's hand grabbed mine. He pulled hard. The world snapped back. She was inches away, too close. Her fingers brushed my chest, and I felt my heart beat slow. Once, then again. Jason yanked me backward with desperate strength. "Move!" We broke into a sprint, stumbling blindly through the forest. I didn't know where we were going. I didn't care. I only knew one thing. Something was behind her. Something ancient. Something that wanted me more than she did. And it was coming too.
Branches whipped my face as Jason dragged me through the trees, my legs barely keeping pace. The cold inside my chest pulsed rhythmically, like a second heartbeat, slower, heavier, trying to take control of the first. Every breath tasted like damp earth. Every step felt less like running and more like being chased inside my own body. Jason didn't look back once. The forest howled in silence behind us, not with wind, not with animals, just the soundless pressure of something vast and unseen closing in. The presence following us wasn't footsteps, it was weight. The ground groaned beneath it, the air thickened, the forest bent inward to make room for whatever moved through it. Jason cursed under his breath. "She's not alone tonight." I could barely speak. What was that behind her? Jason didn't answer. His grip tightened on my wrist until it hurt. We veered toward a rocky incline, scrambling upward on shaking legs. The slope was slick with moss, and I slipped twice, catching myself only with Jason's help. When we reached the top, the forest stretched below us, dark, shifting, impossibly quiet. Jason finally spoke. "That wasn't her. That was the thing keeping her here." I swallowed hard. "What is it?" Jason turned to me, and for the first time since I met him, I saw real, helpless terror in his eyes. "The forest," he said, "or what lives beneath it. We call it the old root. Something ancient, something that's been in these pines long before anyone went missing." My skin prickled. "What does it want?" Jason shook his head. "It doesn't want anything human. It just takes. Memories, voices, bodies, anyone who gets too close." He scanned my face. "And you're getting close." The cold in my chest pulsed again, harder. A faint whisper brushed my ears. "You're almost here." I jerked in place. Jason grabbed my shoulders. "Don't listen. It's not her voice anymore." "But it sounds like—" "I know what it sounds like," he said. "The forest uses the voices of people it's taken." My stomach dropped. "So she's just a shell?" Jason nodded. "The old root hollowed her out. It wears her grief like a mask. It uses her to lure new ones in, and once it takes you, it uses your voice next." Horror spread through me like a second cold. I took a step back from him, breathing too fast. "Jason, what happened to the other ranger, the one before me?" Jason looked away. "That's why I knew she chooses alone people. He was alone too." He closed his eyes. "She took him on the third night." A sickening dread settled in my stomach. Tonight was my third night. "We need higher ground," Jason said. "She moves like a shadow down below. The thing controlling her, it needs the forest floor to reach you." He pointed toward a ridge ahead, a narrow line of rock rising above the treetops. "We stay there till dawn. She's weakest in light, and that thing, whatever it is, retreats when the sun rises." "Can we make it?" I asked. Jason's jaw tightened. "We have to." We started toward the ridge, stumbling over roots and rocks, but something felt wrong. The trees didn't match what I remembered. Shadows overlapped, paths shifted, the ground sloped in ways that didn't exist minutes before. "Jason," I whispered, "the forest is changing." He nodded. "It does that when she's close."
No sooner had he spoken than a sound drifted from behind us, a soft creak, like a neck turning too far. Jason froze. "Don't look." But the cold made the decision for me. It crawled up my spine like a hand, forcing my gaze over my shoulder. And there she stood, Alina, no more than 20 feet away, her head tilted at an impossible angle, long hair hanging like dripping seaweed. Her arms hung loose at her sides, but her hands curled slightly, like craving to reach. Her face was wrong, blurred at the edges like smoke trapped inside human skin. Her hollow eyes sank deeper than before, twin pits the forest breathed through. Jason whispered, look away now." But I couldn't. She stepped forward, not on the ground, above it, floating inches above the pine needles, as if the forest held her up like a puppet on invisible strings. Her voice seeped through the trees. "You're almost home." Jason gripped my sleeve and yanked me backward. But as we turned, the forest changed right in front of us. Paths splitting, trees bending, shadows rearranging like a twisting labyrinth. "Jason, keep going. Don't stop."
But no matter which direction we ran, the forest curved subtly, steering us left, then right, then back again. The cold inside my chest pulsed faster, harder, like something tugged me with invisible threads. Roots emerged from the ground, not natural roots. Thick, sinuous shapes curling like fingers, blocking paths, guiding us toward the place behind us, back toward her. Branches shifted overhead, closing like jaws around our escape. The forest wasn't just responding, it was choosing. Something moved beneath the soil, a deep, heavy movement that traveled through the earth, shaking pine needles loose from the branches. Jason grabbed my hand, breath sharp. "Run when I say. 1, 2. He stopped. The ground in front of us cracked. A dark root split the earth open, thick, blackened, knotted, taller than my waist. It curled upward, groaning like a living thing, then slammed down inches from my feet. Jason pulled me back, shouting, "She's bringing us to the root." Another crack. Another root surfaced. Then another, surrounding us. A circle, a perfect circle of rising, twisting roots, just like the circles etched with pine needles, just like the marks carved into the trees. Jason's voice trembled. "It marked you days ago. That symbol, it wasn't a warning, it was ownership." My throat tightened. "What do we do?" Jason turned toward me, eyes wide with desperation. "Don't move. Whatever happens, do not move." But the cold inside my chest pulsed again, harder, stronger, almost hungry. I felt myself stepping forward. My foot moved without permission, then the next. Jason grabbed me, but I dragged him with me, helplessly. "I can't stop," I choked. I can't stop." The roots parted, making a narrow passage, inviting. Jason wrapped his arms around me, trying to anchor me. "Fight it! Fight it!" But the cold pulled harder. Alina appeared at the end of the passageway of roots, waiting, arms open, head tilted, her feet not touching the ground. Her voice echoed inside me. "You finally found me." The cold surged. My heart stuttered. My vision blurred. I stepped forward again. Jason screamed my name and tried to tackle me, but the moment he touched me, the forest reacted. A giant root whipped upward and smashed into him, launching him backward into the trees. He hit the ground and didn't move. "Jason, I stumbled toward him, but the cold forced my body another direction, toward her. The forest closed behind me, roots curling like fingers, branches lowering like bars. Alina drifted closer. I reached out, not by choice, but as if pulled by invisible hooks buried deep in my chest. She lifted her hand and touched my cheek with icy fingertips. "You're ready." Something enormous shifted under the earth behind her, closer, rising, stretching. The presence from the clearing, the old root, the thing wearing her grief, the thing that wanted me. My vision dimmed. My legs moved on their own. Alina stepped aside, revealing the darkness beneath the pines. A hollow in the earth, a place people weren't meant to see. A voice rose from the shadows, deep, ancient, calling me by name, and I stepped forward, unable to stop myself.
The ground beneath my feet softened as I stepped toward the hollow in the earth. Pine needles sank like wet carpet. Roots shifted under the surface, rearranging themselves in slow, serpentine motions, as if making room for me. The cold inside my chest pulsed faster now, matching a rhythm that didn't belong to my heartbeat. A rhythm older, deeper, alien. I tried to slow my steps, to resist, but my feet moved without my consent, each one landing in perfect cadence with the whispering voice rising from the dark below. Alina drifted beside me like a guide showing me home, her hollow eyes fixed on me with a mixture of longing and emptiness, her jaw hanging just slightly open in a shape that looked like she wanted to speak, but no longer remembered how. Jason lay far behind us, motionless at the base of a tree. I wanted to run to him, to reach him, to see if he was alive, but the forest had closed around.
The ground beneath my feet softened as I stepped toward the hollow in the earth. Pine needles sank like wet carpet. Roots shifted under the surface, rearranging themselves in slow, serpentine motions, as if making room for me. The cold inside my chest pulsed faster now, matching a rhythm that didn't belong to my heartbeat. A rhythm older, deeper, alien. I tried to slow my steps, to resist, but my feet moved without my consent, each one landing in perfect cadence with the whispering voice rising from the dark below. Alina drifted beside me like a guide showing me home, her hollow eyes fixed on me with a mixture of longing and emptiness, her jaw hanging just slightly open in a shape that looked like she wanted to speak but no longer remembered how. Jason lay far behind us, motionless at the base of a tree. I wanted to run to him, to reach him, to see if he was alive, but the forest had closed around him, a wall of roots and branches growing fast, sealing him off. He was gone to me now. I was alone, and the thing beneath the earth wanted me alone. The hollow widened at my feet, and the smell hit me first.
damp soil mixed with something sweet and rotten, like flowers blooming in decay. The darkness curled upward in slow tendrils, drifting like fog. I leaned forward involuntarily, my chest tightening painfully. Alina's voice cracked through the silence. "You came back." Her words felt like they were being pushed through water, heavy with grief. It wasn't anger, it wasn't threat, it was longing. A tug inside me, stronger now, pulled me toward her, toward the dark, toward the thing beneath us. I tried to speak. "I'm not who you think I am." But my voice dissolved into a trembling breath. The forest swallowed the words whole. Alina floated closer, her face inches from mine. Her breath smelled like soil. Her fingers brushed my cheek again, colder than anything I had ever felt. I shuddered. Frost formed along the edge of my jaw where she touched me. Her hollow eyes softened, not warm, not human, just less empty, as if she recognized something in me the way a drowning person recognizes a familiar hand underwater. "You won't leave again," she whispered. Then her hand slid from my cheek to my chest, resting directly over my heart. Everything inside me froze. My heartbeat slowed. Once, then again, then again. The cold spread outward from her fingers, filling my ribs, my lungs, my throat. My breath stuttered into a cloud of frost. I felt my legs weaken, my spine bend forward as if pulled by gravity deeper into the hollow. She guided me, her hand never leaving my chest, down, down into the darkness. But before I crossed into it completely, the presence beneath us rose. It didn't appear physically. It didn't need to. Its awareness slammed into my mind like sound without noise, like pressure without touch. A massive consciousness spreading beneath the pines, old as the first roots that claimed this land. It pressed into the back of my mind. Images flooded in. A dozen faces lost in the forest. Hands clawing upward from the soil. Bodies buried in roots like cocoons. Voices calling for help. A cavern of tangled branches beneath the earth, filled with hollowed-out people standing in rows like forgotten dolls. Their mouths open, their eyes empty sockets filled with darkness, whispering in a single voice, "Stay." I staggered. My vision blurred. The cold inside my chest turned to a sharp, painful pull, as if my heartbeat was being tugged outward, thread by thread. I reached for anything, any memory, any warmth, any piece of myself that wasn't already sinking into the forest. Jason shouting my name. My sister, my father before he died, a world beyond these trees, a world that was still mine. Alina's voice cut through it. "You're almost here." Her hand pushed gently.
My foot crossed into the hollow. Darkness surged up my legs like water.
The old root spoke inside my skull, not in words, but in the tone of inevitability, a deep, ancient rhythm, a knowing, a claim. I felt myself slipping, letting go, becoming something else. But then, a sound broke through the silence, soft at first, then louder, a groan. Wood splitting, roots snapping. Jason, he wasn't dead. He pushed himself from the ground, face bloodied, one arm limp at his side, but he was breathing, ragged, desperate, alive. "Hey!" he screamed hoarsely. "Take me instead!" The forest shuddered violently. The cold inside me paused. Alina's head snapped toward him in a jerking, unnatural motion. Her mouth twitched. Jason stumbled closer, dragging his broken leg through the needles. "Take me!" he choked. "Leave him!" The ground split between us. Roots writhed upward, reaching for Jason with hungry speed. But Jason didn't run. He hurled himself forward into the hollow, toward the ancient presence rising beneath it. The cold inside me cracked, snapped like ice breaking under heat. Alina's hand slipped from my chest. My heartbeat surged violently. My legs buckled, and I fell backward onto the forest floor, gasping desperately for breath. The roots that held my ankles recoiled as if burned. Jason disappeared into the hollow. His scream echoed once, then cut off sharply. Alina stared at the spot where he vanished. Her head lowered slowly. Her form flickered, dimmed, like a shadow losing its light source. Then she turned toward me. For one moment, a heartbeat. Her hollow eyes weren't hollow. They softened. She looked almost human again. Then her body collapsed inward, folding like wet cloth, sinking into the earth as the hollow sealed itself shut. The forest exhaled. Wind returned. Birds stirred. The cold left my chest in a final, painful snap, and the silence ended. I don't remember walking back to the cabin. I don't remember packing. I only remember the sun rising, a pale, weak light pushing through the trees as if afraid of what it just missed. I never saw Alina again, but the forest never grew in that clearing after that night. The soil stayed bare, black, wrong. They found Jason's jacket on the ridge weeks later, not his body. No one asked why I left the ranger job early. No one believed me when I tried to explain. And sometimes, late at night, in places far from Utah, I still feel a cold pulse in my chest, like something under the earth, deep in those pines, still remembers my heartbeat, still calls my name, still waits.